Introduction to Feng Qing. This is a story of a vertical son becoming a hero. Why can vertical son become a hero? It's not that I'm too good, but those grandsons are two scumbags. Maimo Fengyu. The road in the distance is at your feet, searching and moving forward courageously. Chapter 1. Many Stories in Small Cities, Part 1. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ads by Google equals window. Ads by Google. Push. Maimo Fengyu walked unsteadily into the least famous small tavern located in Luoha City. Most people don't know about this tavern, but those who do know are not ordinary. It can be said that the guests in the small tavern called the Kwai Hai don't have good people. In the traditional sense, good people. It is obvious that Maimo Fengyu is not a good person either. At this afternoon, there were not many drinkers in the Kwai Hai Tavern. They gathered in small groups, boasting and chatting. Due to the strong and timid nature of the wine, although there were not many people, it caused a lot of noise. Even through the old door of the tavern, one could hear it. At first, the arrival of Maimo Fengyu did not attract much attention, but when he was 7 or 8 meters away from the staircase, he finally caught everyone's attention. When they saw clearly that it was Maimo Fengyu, everyone looked back as before. Not everyone can go up to the second floor of the Kwai Hai Tavern. Without qualifications, one naturally has no qualifications to climb up to the second floor. Maimo Fengyu is a qualified person. The destination of Maimo Fengyu's trip is the second floor of Shao Ertai, which naturally belongs to Shao Ertai. Shao Ertai is considered a prominent figure in Luoha City, and he is the leader of the Fenglu gang. The main business of Fenglu gang is bath and sauna health care. This world is called Iyo Hulu continent, and the sun is a companion star. The rules of the world's movement are mainly based on the earth. The technology of Iyo Hulu continent is the steam era, and the energy driving the era is not coal, but coal crystals. Coal crystals have a smaller volume, greater energy, less pollution, and are more environmentally friendly than coal. Iyo Hulu continent has telegrams, no telephones, refrigerators, no televisions, lights, no computers, etc. The way people receive information is through newspapers, and the informatization of the era belongs to 1/7 of the level of openness. Maimo Fengyu kicked open the door of Yejian. There is one person sitting in the elegant room and more than 10 people standing. The dozen or so people standing were originally full of anger on their faces. When they saw clearly that the person kicking the door was Maimo Fengyu, they immediately greeted each other with a smile, and many instinctively nodded and bowed. Shao Ertai was very open-minded about the reaction of the younger brothers, and on the surface, there was no dissatisfaction. He stood up and laughed, "Crazy, you're here." Maimo Fengyu smiled and said, "Master Shao is treating me, dare I come?" As he finished speaking, he had already sat across from Shao Ertai. In front of each of them was a large beer glass, but it was not beer, but baijiu. A small wine pot, 4 plates of wine dishes, namely crisp peanuts, cold rolls of dried bean milk creams, hand-shredded crispy chicken, pickled shredded radish. This small wine pot is not ordinary, its capacity is not as large as it looks, but rather very large. Iyo Hulu continent possesses super energy technology, portal technology, and space storage technology. This small wine jug is a space item that can hold 30 pounds of liquor. Shao Ertai picked up his glass and said with a smile, "Madman, let's go." Maimo Fengyu shook his head and didn't take any action. Shao Ertai's face stiffened for a moment, and a hint of extremely cold killing intent was finally not hidden and exposed, but it appeared in less than a second. He smiled and said, "Madman, what does this mean? You look down on me." Maimo Fengyu smiled and said, "No, let's get down to business first. After all, you also know that I am very short of money now. Working people's lives are not easy, and I cannot compare with you big bosses. The currency of the Iyo Hulu continent is gold coins, silver coins, and copper coins. 1 gold coin is exchanged for 100 silver coins, and 1 silver coin is exchanged for 100 copper coins. The purchasing power of 1 copper coin is 3 white flour buns or 5 miscellaneous grain buns. Xiao Ertai laughed and said, "Madman really knows how to joke. Others don't know, I don't know yet. You are the richest man in our Luoha city." Maimo Fengyu was shocked and said, "Boss Xiao, if you keep doing this, we won't have to talk about this business anymore." Xiao Ertai sneered in his heart, knowing that Maimo Fengyu was a financial fanatic, a true financial fanatic. No one knows the origin of Maimo Fengyu in the entire Luoha city, but due to the strong fighting power of Maimo Fengyu's spiritual beings, they have not been defeated to this day, so they have successfully taken root. Once, Maimo Fengyu was a tool that these wealthy people liked, but now he has become a little devil that these wealthy people dislike. Because Maimo Fengyu is too greedy, he really fell into the trap of money. He is a super finance fanatic. He is not obsessed with ghosts, but with wealth. This time, this group of wealthy people planned to kill Maimo Fengyu and eat him so much that he even vomited out his capital and profits. Xiao Ertai nodded and said softly, "Are you really willing to give up on the big business of 2,000 gold coins?" Maimo Fengyu swallowed his saliva, shook his head, and said, "For the sake of gold coins, let's forget about this time. Alright, let's talk about who the target is this time." After drinking a big drink, Maimo, who was just 1/3 drunk, stumbled towards his home. Maimo Fengyu's home is a small courtyard house. In addition to him as the head of the family, there is also a family, a very ugly little sister. Maimo Fengyu's alcohol tolerance is 10,000 cups without getting drunk. He never knows what it feels like to be drunk. He is not really greedy, but a human weakness deliberately disguised in order to quickly win the trust of his collaborators. This is the knowledge taught by Mississippi. A person without weaknesses, perfection is their original sin. Why? Because such people are difficult to control, uncomfortable to use, and uneasy to cooperate with. After all, there are many ordinary people in the world, but few wise people. Wearing gold and silver can only prove that a person has money in their family, but cannot prove that their character is virtuous. After all, being rich without benevolence is an ecological environment, and claiming to be expensive is a means of deceiving others. Although Maimo Fengyu is a human being, he is not raised by humans. This is not a curse, but a fact. He was raised by a mother wolf, and there is a mother wolf. This is true, absolutely true. Maimo Fengyu's wolf cub career lasted for 3 years. At the age of 4, his wolf mother was shot and killed by a hunter, and his wolf brothers were brutally slaughtered. In the end, only he survived, and he was able to survive because he was human. His appearance was human. After leaving the wolf's den, Maimo Fengyu's days of hardship officially began. The hunter named him Wolf Boy and sold him to a circus. The life in the circus brought about the baptism of human nature, not good warmth, but evil bone cold. The first step for Maimo Fengyu to return to human society is observation, and the second step is learning. During his time at zhaozuiyuan.com, he met a kind-hearted, petite, and very unattractive little girl who gave him the key to deciphering human society, which was text. Maimo Fengyu finally learned that the 3 characters on the cheap and dirty pendant hanging around his neck were Maimo Fengyu. From then on, he used Maimo Fengyu as his name. At the age of 8, Maimo Fengyu awakened his spiritual power and became a spiritual one. This was originally an opportunity to change fate, but it fell on Maimo Fengyu as the key to another dark journey, as he became the most expensive spiritual slave among slaves. The price of spiritual slaves is high, but their treatment is the hardest. They often cannot eat enough, and going hungry is a deserved treatment. After all, the greater the destructive power, the thicker the chains used to bind them. Maimo Fengyu's life as a spiritual slave lasted for 4 years, and his 4-year career as a gladiator gave him superb spirit fighting skills, making him the shortest-lasting diamond gladiator. His treatment continued to improve, but the only thing that remained unchanged was that the pretty little sister beside him remained the same. Maimo Feng's skin condition is very poor, which makes it impossible for him to complete the feat of changing his physical life. His skin is not easy to look at on the doorstep, and his unattractive distance is not short. It can only be said that he has a plain appearance that makes it difficult for people to remember a common face. Under the planning of Sister Xiaorong, who was the younger sister in the dormitory, they successfully escaped through feigned death. Although Maimo Feng is a hen that lays golden eggs, the hen is still a hen. If she dies, she will die. Sadness is not a big deal, but heartache cannot be avoided. However, heartache is just a fleeting event. Now, Maimo Feng and his sister Xiaorong have come from Qinwei Benzhou to Jishirmozhou. It was Xiaorong's proposal to come to Jishirmozhou. Maimo Feng has no objections, and the two have arrived at Jishirmozhou. At this moment, there was only Maimo Feng in the whole family, and Xiaorong had been arranged in a very safe place by him. He opened his eyes, snored, and waited for the guests to come. Chapter 2. Many Stories in Small Cities, Part 2. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ads by Google equals window. Ads by Google. Push, the sixth sense of Maimo Feng has a strong sense of danger, which is a golden finger bestowed by the living environment. This kind of golden finger is artificial, not innate. The vast majority of intelligent people have superb acting skills. The mask is not only thick but also slippery. After obtaining the status of master, few people can see each other again, and that mask will become a representative symbol of their identity. In the eyes of the vast majority of people, Xiao Ertai's extremely cold killing intent was very profound, dark and hazy, difficult to detect. However, in the eyes of Maimo Feng, it was like a firefly in the dark night, no matter how small, it could be seen clearly and clearly. Maimo Feng thought he would be waiting for the guest soon, but he didn't expect to wait for 3 or 4 hours before finally waiting for the unexpected guest to arrive. The noise outside the courtyard began to appear, spread, and eventually broke into the courtyard. The spirit armor grants power to the spirit one in the form of the spirit armor mark. The spirit armor mark is located in the dantian and is usually hidden, summoning and appearing. Spiritual armor can alter the 6 senses of spiritual beings, thus creating a tall and majestic image in the eyes of ordinary people. The movement was unbridled, without any concealment, open and upright. They are really not worried about not being able to kill Maimo Feng, but are afraid that Maimo Feng will escape. The reason for choosing Maimo Feng courtyard is simple. The clearance cost here is the lowest. The people who broke into the small courtyard were all wearing spiritual armor and holding spiritual weapons, the remaining 3 sides are wearing spiritual armor and holding spiritual weapons. The combat weapon of the Spirit One is the spirit armor, which serves as a medium for the use of spiritual power. Ling armor has different types due to its different combat purposes and accessories. Spirit armor is divided into melee spirit armor and long-range attack spirit armor. The accessories of melee spirit armor are spirit weapons, spirit cavalry, and spirit skills. The accessories of the far attack spirit armor are spirit tools, spirit wings, and stealth. The difference between Lingwu and Lingqi. Lingwu refers to weapons such as knives, guns, swords, and halberds, while Lingqi refers to bows and crossbows. Spiritual beings are divided into 3 categories based on their different functions, namely those who wear melee spirit armor to trap spirits, those who guard spirits, and those who wear long-range attack spirit armor to reflect spirits. Among them, the trapped spirit can be further divided into blade spirit, spear spirit, hammer spirit, etc. The guardian spirit has only one shield spirit, and it can be said that the guardian spirit is the shield spirit, and the shield spirit is the guardian spirit. Yingling is divided into bow spirit and crossbow spirit. Maimo opened his mouth and cursed, Tama. Where did the dog come from? It's disturbing my dream. A loud voice that Maimo Feng was very familiar with came from outside. Madman, if you wake up from drinking, then come out. The owner of this voice is also the prominent figure of Luohe City, the president of the Labor Association, Jian Xingxiu, and the target of the Maimo Feng's 2,000 gold coin business. He is a nobleman worth 2,000 gold coins. Although Luohe City is just a small town, the power struggles inside are very intense, which is also the basis for Maimo Feng to quickly accumulate money in Luohe City. However, this time, Maimo Feng decided to play with the big game and directly stew his gold owner to obtain a one-step funding pool. Of course, this is also Xiaorong's idea. The cities on the continent of Iyo Hulu are divided into giant cities, large cities, medium cities, small cities, and small towns. A population of millions is called a giant city, a population of 1 million is called a big city, a population of 300,000 is called a middle city, a population of 100,000 is called a small city, and all those below 100,000 are small towns. Therefore, the small town is not small, and the small town is not big. Maimo Feng was very clear that the key to the success of this plan was to behead the snake head. As long as the snake head was beheaded, driven by greed, its internal structure would inevitably become chaotic and there was no need to provoke. This is the aftermath of the brutal rule of military repression. When there is no military suppression, extreme selfishness naturally breeds bandit behavior and banditry. Not attacking but causing chaos and killing each other is an inevitable dead end for them. Maimo Feng's mind twitched, and in an instant, his spiritual armor possessed him. In his hand, a pair of drums, jars, and golden hammers appeared. The name of Maimo Feng's spiritual armor is Minghu Ji, which is the eternal spiritual armor. Spirit armor is divided into Changsheng spirit armor and Lulong spirit armor. Longevity spirit armor. Self-evolving, a set for a lifetime. Lulong spirit armor. A set of steps. Level. Bronze, silver, gold, each level is divided into upper grade, middle grade, and lower grade. For example, the bronze lower grade spirit armor is a combat weapon of a 1-star spirit warrior. Maimo Feng walked out of the room with a drum jar and golden hammer in hand, and saw a familiar old customer standing in the yard. He smiled and said, "Oh ho! They're all here, are you here to deliver money?" Lao Xingxiu sneered and said, "Kid, do you still want my head now?" Lao Xingxiu is 58 years old this year, but he has a youthful appearance and does not show any signs of aging. This is because the professional welfare of spiritual beings is to stay young and not be affected by cold or heat. Maimo Feng nodded seriously and said, "I am a person who values credibility and promises. I said I will kill you today, but I must kill you today. It's just a little earlier." Upon hearing this, Lao Xingxiu was stunned for several seconds before laughing loudly from the sky. The companions of Lao Xingxiu all laughed up to the sky. Maimo Feng watched quietly, his patience was strong. In the past, he lacked leisure time and was tired like a dog every day. No, it wasn't that he was tired like a dog, but rather that he was not even as good as a dog and couldn't compare to a pig. However, he has plenty of time now, waiting patiently for his prey to fall into the trap. The laughter lasted for 20.30 seconds, and the enemy's mockery of the attack wave finally came to an end. Lao Xingxiu moved his muscles and bones, swapping his left and right hands with his machete several times. He said sternly, "Kid. They say you're very tough and capable of hitting, but I don't believe it. Your hammer is hard, is my machete made of mud?" Maimo Feng watched quietly, without any extra words, and there was no need to say anything more. Lao Xingxiu was very unhappy and felt that he had been looked down upon. Looking for Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com, he had a fierce expression on his face, wielding a large machete and roaring loudly as he charged towards Maimo Feng. Maimo Feng's gaze remained calm as he waved his drum-beating jar and golden hammer to confront Lao Xingxiu. This time, Maimo Feng decided to exert 7/10 of his strength, but usually he only exerts 3/10 of his strength. As soon as he took over, Lao Xingxiu was shocked and pale, but it was too late. He was smashed into a meat cake by Maimo Feng. Blood splattered and dyed red. Xiao Ertai was shocked and said, "Kid. How dare you hide your foolishness? Who the hell are you? What do you want to do in Luohe City?" Maimo Feng smiled and said, "I'm just a financial fanatic, just to make money. But if you die, I can get 30,000 gold coins at once." Another prominent figure spoke up, "Are you saying we have an insider?" Maimo Feng shook his head and said, "Don't ask, I have to abide by professional ethics. If I die, you can slowly investigate on your own. If you die, what difference does it make to know?" The remaining 11 individuals each summoned their spiritual weapons, their angry eyes wide open, and both men and women rushed towards Maimo Feng together. Maimo Feng smiled and fought with the crowd, holding a drum-beating jar and golden hammer. This battle lasted for more than 10 minutes, and in the end, only Xiao Ertai was left panting. He voluntarily lost his spiritual weapon and kept kowtowing to Maimo Feng, which can be said to be sincere and sincere. He didn't speak, knowing that talking too much at this moment could easily have a counterproductive effect. Maimo Feng stared at Xiao Ertai and suddenly felt that the golden hammer in his drum jar was 3 points heavier. In theory, he should have let Schulte go, but his experience taught him that the pity of the weak is the cause of disaster. He lightly swung the hammer and smashed Schulte into a meat patty. Maimo Feng's spiritual skill is called Flying Thunder 72 styles, but he has only used 18 styles to this day. Maimo Feng stood quietly, waiting for his collaborator to arrive. Chapter 3. Home Visit, Part 1. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ads by Google equals window. Ads by Google. Push. Maimo Feng finally waited for his collaborators. There were a total of 70 or 80 of them, and each person's ambition was ignited by his collusion. However, he really didn't care because 30,000 gold coins was his ultimate goal, and the future development of this small town had nothing to do with him. This was what he believed to be true. If Xiaorong didn't correct it, then it was right. LV Tonghua, Yi Yuanhua, and others looked at Maimo Feng with fiery eyes, hoping to leave a good impression in the hearts of the new boss and step on the ladder to becoming a better person. Maimo Feng is not foolish, it's just that he used to be extremely ignorant. Now that 3 parts of ignorance still remain, why is there still 3 parts of ignorance left? Because there are still 3 parts of the world that I don't understand, and naturally there is still 3 parts of ignorance left. Maimo Feng pulled out a gentle smile. His smile was an acting skill taught by Xiaorong for 3 months. He couldn't smile, really couldn't. That pair of bloodthirsty eyes, under countless whipping and Xiaorong's warm guidance, gradually turned into calm eyes. Of course, it can also be understood as numb eyes. He said in a soft voice, "I have seen your contributions and hard work. The success of this great event requires everyone to work hard. I am not an ungrateful person, so you can rest assured." The method for Maimo Feng to subdue this group of people is very simple, using carrots and a big stick. His carrot with a big stick starts with the big stick and then the carrot. He came to a realization that without knowing how much the stick hurts, he wouldn't know that carrots are immortal. Although carrots cannot become immortal flavors in the human world, with the blessing of a big stick, it is 80% possible to become immortal flavors in the human world. Everyone shouted in unison, "Big Brother Gao Yi. We dare not forget Big Brother's kindness even if we die." Maimo Feng nodded with a smile and said, "The remaining small matters can be negotiated and handled by everyone. Don't hurt the harmony." "No." The crowd clasped their fists and saluted. The spiritual armor on Maimo Feng's body had already dissipated, and he walked slowly towards his destination. His destination is in the suburbs, because Xiaorong is hiding in the suburbs. Maimo Feng originally did not know what the encounter with Xiaorong was, but after Xiaorong's guidance, he learned that it was called fate. He learned that fate would bring him thousands of miles to meet, that he would cross the same boat after 100 years of cultivation, and that he would sleep together after 1,000 years of cultivation. He understood Xiao Rong's thoughts. He drew a gourd and proposed to Xiaorong, but Xiaorong did not agree or refuse. Instead, she said one sentence. "I don't want your mercy, I want your love. Your willing love." He was confused and didn't know the difference between the two. Aren't they both love? He doesn't understand, he really doesn't understand. After that incident, Maimo Fengyu and Xiaorong had a cold war for more than 20 days. Of course, in Maimo Fengyu's heart, it was impossible to know that there was a war between him and his Xiaorong sister. The natural way for the Cold War to end was for Xiaorong to reluctantly surrender, and Maimo Fengyu also paid the price. His price was to make breakfast for Xiaorong for 7 days, which was simple fried bread slices. Xiaorong had to enjoy it for 7 days and chose to give up. The night is silent, the moon is dimly lit, and 3 or 2 stars twinkle. Maimo Fengyu enjoys this moment and the scenery very much. His mouth couldn't help but show a genuine smile. Rare to outsiders, unknown to himself. Maimo Fengyu did not feel any discomfort. After all, when a person melts loneliness into their bones, loneliness has already disappeared, and they will no longer enjoy the torment of loneliness. Loneliness will disappear from their world. The experience of entering human society for the first time made Maimo Fengyu very disgusted with humans. This is a deep-seated disgust. Although it has been softened by Xiaorong's nurturing, the root cause of the disease has not decreased at all. Maimo Fengyu arrived at an old place and hid openly. Although he was eager to see Xiaorong, he still chose to follow the old rules and see if anyone was following him. The waiting time was not shortened by 1 second, but instead extended by 3 minutes. Every time he comes here, whether it's 1 or 2 people, he always chooses to extend it by a few minutes, not by a second. The minutes he extends are not fixed and he can do whatever he wants. Maimo Fengyu walked out of the old place and walked several tens of meters forward. In front of him appeared a dilapidated slum, with visible signs of fire. In the slums outside the suburbs, fires often occur from time to time, and it is difficult to find human bones after a fire. Have they all been cremated to ashes? The slave merchants were extremely fond of the great fires in the slums. Maimo Fengyu walked into the ruins of this slum, turning 7 or 8, and arrived at a 2/3 collapsed adobe house. He pushed the door and entered, but there was no one inside. He arrived at the northeast corner, crouched down, groped for a while, and finally found it. With a strong pull on the iron chain, a tunnel entrance slowly appeared. Suddenly, a petite figure emerged from the tunnel, hugging Maimo Fengyu and sobbing. Maimo Fengyu was stunned. It was the first time he had seen Xiaorong cry. He didn't know what to do and had to be forced to be a wooden person after an unknown amount of time. Maimo Fengyu realized that the crying had disappeared. He lowered his head and saw that Xiaorong had fallen asleep. He smiled, gently picked up Xiaorong, and left. Maimo Fengyu knows Xiaorong's secret, which is that Xiaorong's constitution is evergreen and not affected by cold and heat, but Xiaorong is not a spiritual being. Eo Hulu continent possesses spiritual pills, and the creator of the spiritual pills is the spiritual alchemist. Lingdan Shi possesses a strange fire, which has no combat attributes and can only be used for alchemy. Strange fire belongs to artificial creations. Maimo Fengyu and Xiaorong left Luohe City, and their destination for this trip was the capital city of the only kingdom in Mozhou. Yongsu Kingdom Yuanminjing. The Eo Hulu continent is composed of 3 oceans and 8 continents, among which Simuzu is ruled by 1 kingdom and 4 principalities. This kingdom is called the Yongsu Kingdom. Their means of transportation is a motorcycle, and they could have enjoyed a sedan, but Xiaorong doesn't like to ride a sedan, so she likes to ride a motorcycle. Most of the time, Maimo Fengyu's demands for Xiaorong are obedient and rarely opposed. The road chosen by Maimo Fengyu is a small path, which is very close to the transfer station. Taking shortcuts and drilling small paths is a natural skill that Maimo Fengyu has learned. Suddenly, Maimo Fengyu's heart tightened, his eyebrows furrowed slightly, and he said coldly, "It seems we are too kind." Xiao Rong asked, are they really here? 8 out of 10. Have you ever experienced a malfunction in your sense of danger? After careful consideration, Maimo Fengyu said, I don't think so. What does it mean to have nothing? If there is, it means there is, if there is no, it means there is no, what does it mean to have nothing? Xiao Rong was very dissatisfied. No, said Maimo Fengyu, really not. Not really. 100 trials and hundreds of spirits. 100 trials and hundreds of spirits. So. What's wrong? Maimo Fengyu was puzzled. Did we go smoothly this time? Maimo Fengyu was stunned for a moment, thought for a moment, and said seriously, Sister Xiaorong, I can only perceive the killing intent emitted by the danger source. As for predicting the future, can it be achieved in the future? Xiaorong was full of anticipation. I definitely can't do it either. This is not a skill at all. Xiaorong saw 3 sedans and 9 vans appearing ahead. There was also movement coming from behind. She turned around and saw 5 sedans and 12 vans. Xiaorong sighed heavily and said, it seems I was wrong. I should have listened to you. Maimo Fengyu has no words. Chapter 4. Door to Door, Part 2. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ads by Google equals window. Ads by Google. Push, Xiaorong said quietly, I really didn't expect, that when I stepped towards the door, I would unexpectedly encounter a threshold, and it was also a high and fake person who broke through the threshold. Maimo Fengyu has no words. The two of them got off the motorcycle, and Maimo Fengyu put it away steadily, instructing, keep an eye on it. Xiaorong nodded and said, don't worry. Xiaorong took out a card from her space ring, which was made of metal and carved with a humanoid creature wearing a mask. The metal card in Xiaorong's hand is not ordinary, it is a medium for the spirit-plated person to obtain superpower force, called a spirit card. Lingdan is refined by Lingdan Shi, and Linka is naturally carved by Linkashi. Not everyone can use spirit cards, ordinary people cannot use spirit cards, and can only use fire sticks, firearms, to display force. There were no cannons in the Iyo Hulu continent because cannons had no potential for development, and it was easy to see them at a glance. People who can use spirit cards, like Xiao Rong, have the physique of a spirit person but lack the ability of a spirit person, and are called spirit-plated people. Among the 10,000 desires of ordinary people, the top-ranked must be the temptation of plating spiritual pills. Among the desire list of 100,000 ordinary people, the top-ranked one is still the temptation of plating spiritual pills. Among the desires of 1 million ordinary people, the top-ranked must be the temptation of plating spiritual pills. The temptation of spiritual plating is worshipped by ordinary people. Why is the temptation of plating spiritual pills so heart-wrenching for ordinary people? That's because plating spiritual pills can give ordinary people the benefits of being a spiritual being, including immortality, immunity from cold and heat, and most importantly, longevity. Spiritual beings can be roughly divided into low-level spiritual beings, intermediate spiritual beings, and high-level spiritual beings. Among them, the lifespan of low-level spiritual beings is 300 years, the lifespan of intermediate spiritual beings is 500 years, and the lifespan of high-level spiritual beings is 800 years. The lifespan of an ordinary person is 100 years, and very few ordinary people live to 100 years old. Xiaorong is a 3-star spirit-plated person, and she can use a 3-star spirit card. The spirit-plated person can summon spirit dolls sealed inside through spirit cards, command spirit dolls to fight, and the level of spirit dolls is the same as that of spirit cards. The combat power of spirit puppets of the same level is distinguished based on their completion level, and the combat power unit of spirit puppets is the shield. The highest combat power of a spirit puppet is 90 shield, which means the highest completion rate of a spirit puppet is 90%. Therefore, the strongest spirit puppet is a 90 shield 9-star spirit puppet. In Xiaorong's space ring, there are only 585 GB 1-star spirit dolls, 380 GB 2-star spirit dolls, and 183 GB 3-star spirit doll that she usually plays with. The vitality of a spirit puppet is 81 hours of standby and 27 hours of combat. Xiaorong's space ring is extraordinary. Her space ring is a spiritual space ring. Space rings are divided into spiritual space rings and herringbone space rings. Spiritual space ring cannot be opened by non-owner. Living person, human pattern space ring. With the owner, it can be opened. With someone. Those who have seen the little Rong spirit doll, except for Maimo Fengyu, have all died completely, leaving no trace of human evaporation. Maimo Fengyu was deeply curious about Xiaorong's background. Although he doesn't know what privacy is, he can easily control his curiosity. Maimo Fengyu's curiosity was artificially suppressed in his childhood, but the result was that his curiosity did not disappear. Instead, it became even hotter. His graduation relied on learning to hide his curiosity. Xiaorong released 285 Shield 1-star spirit puppets to protect her side. When everyone looked at the spirit puppet next to Xiaorong, they were first shocked, followed by extreme fear, and finally, anger rose from their hearts, with evil intent on the edge of their hearts. They knew they had to kill Xiaorong and not let her go. They all understand a common sense in society, which is that the plating spirit is born into a wealthy family, and the plating spirit people are all wealthy sons and their dogs. The clan name is not a treatment that every family can enjoy in the Iyo Hulu continent. The clan name is the exclusive right of the milling tribe, wealthy family, and their families have no qualification to have the clan name. They belong to the highest level of the common people, the Jinmin. It is not easy to become a milling family, and it is not easy for a wealthy person to become one. A family can only cross the threshold of the milling family and become the lowest level of the 22nd class milling family after at least 3 generations of incredible efforts. Maimo Fengyu, wearing the spirit armor of Minghu, stood in front of Xiaorong with a drum-beating jar and golden hammer. He said coldly, "You are really greedy." A person chuckled and said, "We can't blame this, we can only blame you for being too petty. Brothers, we can only come up with this plan. Don't argue with this Sabi." Another person anxiously said, "Hurry up and take action. We must handle everything thoroughly. Evidence is a prop that smart people need, an essential core element in convincing people with reason. Trust is an intangible force that can turn the world upside down and cover the sky with one hand. Man triumphs over nature, not the sky above his head, but the heaven and earth in everyone's mind." In order to protect Xiaorong from any harm, Maimo Fengyu decided to exert his utmost strength. As a result, this group of rabble were fortunate enough to become the lucky ones who witnessed the true combat power of Maimo Fengyu's spiritual beings in less than 10 minutes. Only Yi Yuanhua remained dumbfounded and muttered incessantly, "Impossible, impossible, impossible. How could it be? I must have been dreaming. This is not true. This is absolutely not true. How could he be a spiritual being in the heavenly Axis War realm? How could he? How could he?" The battle realm of the spirit is divided into Tianshu, Tianxian, Tianji, Tianquan, Yuheng, Kaiyang, and Yaoguang. Among them, the effort made the day after tomorrow can reach up to Tianji. Innate wisdom, heavenly Xian and heavenly Shu. Talent is important but not important. It is important to pierce through the window paper of the master, and we need talent as the needle. Saying it's not important is to make a living, not necessarily relying on ability. Having ability does not necessarily mean being able to make a living. For those who wait to die for nothing. Talent is optional, power is indispensable. The tragedy of achieving great success and shaking the master is a curse. The root of this curse is that the master is a pig, and the real dam is weak. It is not fake, it is real. There are only 2 ways to break this curse. The first is to replace it, and the second is to choose a good minister. Xiao Rong's ugly face burst into a brilliant smile, but what she presented was not cute, but terrifying. Maimo Feng slowly approached the incarnation of Yi Yuan and gently waved the golden hammer of the drum jar in his hand, smashing Yi Yuan into flesh and mud. Then he collected the drum-beating jar and golden hammer, and began to clean up the scene, destroying the remains. For this job, he can be said to be familiar with it. Maimo Feng took less than an hour to process. Spiritual beings must use the burning liquid refined by spiritual alchemists when going out. In this world, there is no soil for the survival of good and evil, only the laws of the jungle of strength and weakness. Maimo Feng is very clear that the evaporation of this group of rabble in the human world will cause another turmoil in the just calm Luoha city. A bloody storm cannot be avoided, and the poor will receive rewards for an unwarranted disaster. At present, Maimo Feng originally believed that this was the punishment that the poor deserved. The slave trade is the fastest way to earn money. The social classes of the Iyo Hulu continent are divided into three categories: wealthy and noble sons, commoners, and slaves. This is a strange world where people's livelihood technology is somewhat advanced and humanistic thinking is very backward. Although humanistic thinking is backward, it is still 3 to 5 times stronger than the raw food thinking of primitive tribes, and this intensity is still present. After several transfers, Maimo Feng and Xiao Rong finally arrived at the Yongsu Kingdom Yuanminjing, which is 300,000 miles away from Luoha City, after more than 50 hours. 90% of these over 50 hours are spent on the city roads during station transfers. If a wealthy son travels from Luoha City to Yuanminjing in less than 3 hours, it would be enough, but no wealthy son would come to such a poor place like Luoha City. Chapter 5. Visiting the Door, Part 1. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ads by Google equals window. Ads by Google. Push, as the capital of the Yongsu Kingdom, which is the only hegemon of Mozhou, Yuanminjing is naturally very bustling. Yuanminjing is very large, divided into 35 rings, with the 30 to 35 rings being the suburbs. The teleportation station chosen by Maimo Feng and Xiao Rong is naturally located in the suburbs. This teleportation station is located on the outskirts of the suburbs and is almost out of circle. The suburbs of Yuanminjing are very prosperous in the eyes of Maimo Feng, and this is the most bustling painting of the human world he has ever seen. Everyone holds their heads high, chest straight, and both adults and children have happy smiles on their faces. Maimo Feng said, "The people here have a good life." "Not really." Xiao Rong casually said, "Who of these people doesn't have a factory or farm at home, and hundreds or thousands of slaves are serving them? How could they be unhappy?" Maimo Feng was stunned for a moment, stopped his steps, and then took another step forward. At this moment, although Xiaorong was wearing a mask, she still noticed Maimo Feng's small movements. She used to wear a mask and wore it in front of anyone, but after encountering Maimo Feng asked her to choose to throw it away in front of him. Maimo Feng's words were, "You look pretty." When Maimo Feng said these words, his expression was serious and his eyes were sincere. After all, the wolf child only dropped 3 or 2 drops of ink, his heart was wild but even whiter. Xiaorong slowed down her pace and waited for Maimo Feng to catch up. She smiled and asked, "What's wrong? Do you have any new ideas?" Maimo Feng said, "I don't have any new ideas, I just feel that living is tiring. I could have relied on my own hands to support myself, but it's difficult to rely on my own hands to support myself." Xiaorong was stopped by this very profound question. Maimo Feng followed and stopped. Xiaorong asked, "Do you know why?" Maimo Feng shook his head and said nothing. How could he possibly know? Maimo Feng and Xiao Rong rented a small courtyard, which is very remote. This makes Maimo Feng a bit confused. He thought they would go straight to the city, but since Xiaorong has chosen, let's accept it. Courtyard, living room. Maimo Feng sits alone. In the kitchen, Xiaorong is carefully preparing lunch. Xiaorong is qualified to survive by two crafts, the first one is cooking, and the second one is perfume dispensing. Her culinary skills made her the first female slave highly valued by a greedy hostess. Intelligent, unattractive, excellent in cooking, and comfortable to eat. Her first hostess was a chubby lady. The ability to adjust perfume made her become the confidant of the third lady hostess, a trusted confidant, and her status was promoted from female slave to chief courtesan servant girl. Ugliness is the primary reason why all of her female masters trust her so much. This meal, Xiaorong put in 12% of her thoughts. She was very aware of Maimo Feng's stubborn nature, which was difficult to weaken in a short time. It took a long time to weaken, and she planned to use a month to eliminate Maimo Feng's dissatisfaction. The meal is ready. Maimo Feng looked at the table of delicious food and felt something was wrong. He asked, "Sister Xiaorong, what's up?" Xiaorong was very clear that she couldn't deceive Maimo Feng, neither admitting nor denying it. She smiled and said, "Let's eat and taste if my sister's cooking skills have improved again." Maimo Feng knows that since Xiaorong doesn't want to say anything, let's wait. A month has passed in the blink of an eye. On this day, the weather was clear and cloudless for thousands of miles. Maimo Feng lay leisurely on the lounge chair basking in the sun, feeling very relaxed. Suddenly, Xiaorong's voice rang out beside her. "My surname is Tsang, my name is Xinrong." Maimo Feng didn't open his eyes and said, "Huji Lu." The Tsang clan is a royal family of the Yongsu kingdom and a fifth-class milling clan. Tsang Xinrong let out a gentle, "What is the first step to take?" said Maimo Fengyu. Tsang Xinrong didn't bother and asked, "Do you really have a plan? What's there to think about, whether it's success or failure?" Success can be considered as a reward for Xiaorong's education. Failure is not a big deal, just give them a bad life. Maimo Feng's tone was faint. Tsang Xinrong asked again, "Are you not angry?" "Why am I angry? Did I deceive you?" "Xiaorong, people will grow up. Although I still don't quite understand some personnel matters, I know that the greater the harm, the deeper it must be hidden. Your approach is not wrong." Tsang Xinrong smiled happily. She didn't know when it started, but this stupid little brother became a little villain that she couldn't let go of. The most popular place in every city is the sports field. Why is it a sports field? Because the stadium is a place for spiritual practitioners to practice. The cultivation of spiritual beings relies on spiritual competition, while the combat of spiritual beings relies on spiritual armor. Spirit competition requires opponents, and spirit armor is a man-made artifact that cannot be lacking in people. It cannot be achieved by one person. The spiritual competition mode of Iyo Hulu continent is football matches. The cultivation of spiritual beings requires qualifications. Maimo Feng, who used to be a spiritual slave, is not qualified to practice spiritual beings. Although he is a spiritual person, he is not qualified to practice. The cultivation of spiritual beings is extremely difficult to achieve secretly, due to the existence of the Great Proclamation. Big Announcement Function. Before the start of the spiritual competition, the spirits of both sides construct a big announcement, which conveys a sentence to people within a certain range, which is spiritual competition climbing, winner soaring in the air. If the spirit does not make a big announcement, both sides will not be able to work together to build a football field, green field. Big announcement scope. A 1-star radius of 10 li, a 2-star radius of 30 li, and a book garden www.zhaoshuyuan.com. A 3-star radius of 100 li, a 4-star radius of 1000 li, a 5-star radius of 3000 li, a 6-star radius of 10,000 li, a 7-star radius of 100,000 li, an 8-star radius of 300,000 li, and a 9-star radius of 1 million li. If spiritual practitioners practice without permission, they will only receive one punishment, which is to kill without mercy. In the world where the law of the jungle of the fittest serves as the guiding principle of human social life, the judgment of public and private is very simple and clear, that is, the strong will always be selfless, and the weak will always be selfish. The spiritual cultivation talent, spiritual competition, and combat talent, spiritual battle, of spiritual beings can be tested, and the tested items are the competition pill and battle ming pill refined by spiritual alchemists. Cultivation talent. 1 star, 2 stars, 3 stars. 9 stars. Those who possess a few star cultivation talent can cultivate several star spirits. As for the spiritual competition strength, it is reasonable and feasible for diligence to make up for weakness. Combat talent is determined by the battlefield, and it is unreasonable and impractical for diligence to make up for weakness. The principle is actually very simple, that is, theory can be extracted, practice cannot be extracted. Theory can be used without revealing its essence. If practice is done openly, it will inevitably reveal the truth. After all, hearing is believing, seeing is believing. The spirit competition of Maimo Fengyu is 9 stars, the battle realm is the heavenly axis, and its potential is beyond imagination. This is also the premise for Tsang Shinrong's spring heart to sprout. Without this premise, could Maimo Fengyu enter the eyes of countless handsome young ladies? How can you get the opportunity to open your heart if you can't catch your eye? Maimo Fengyu's spiritual competition is not a blank slate. He has secretly conducted it more than 100 times, but still has not obtained 1 point of spiritual upgrade points. He is still a spiritual apprentice to this day. Only losing without winning is the spirit competition policy set by Tsang Shinrong. Maimo Fengyu didn't understand at first, but now he has understood it long ago. Both the spirit apprentice and the 1-star spirit can use the 1-star spirit armor for combat. Chapter 6. Visiting the Door, Part 2. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ads by Google equals window. Ads by Google. Push. There are 2 ways for spiritual practitioners to practice, namely competition hall practice and arena practice. Jingtang practice is a orthodox practice, while Buchang practice is a wild path practice. Jingtang is a team collaboration, while Qiaochang is a solo battle. The first stop that Maimo Fengyu and Tsang Shinrong aimed at leading to the avenue of the Tsang family in Huzhail was the battlefield. Behind every sports field in the city, there is a milling tribe as a big support. Without the support of the milling tribe, sports fields cannot be built. The milling tribes on the continent of Iyo Hulu are very proficient in the application of carrot and stick thinking. They understand that the talent of spiritual beings is bestowed by heaven, and blindly suppressing them will eventually cause unpredictable riots. This is not something they actively learned, but they are forced to accept the experience of rebellion as a reward. There are 30.6 battlefields in Yuan Minjing, and Tsang Shinrong's target is called EP1-10 battlefield. The big boss behind EP1-10 fighting field has the surname Tsang and the name Jianmu. Tsang Jianmu belongs to the Tsang family of Huzhila. The same family certification of the milling family is the same ancestor of the 5 costumes. Tsang Jianmu and Tsang Shinrong belong to the Wufu siblings. Tsang Shinrong's grandfather was the head of the Tsang family in Huzhail. Tsang Jianmu and Tsang Shinrong had a fundamental conflict of stance. The fundamental position contradiction can be reconciled, but in the black and white opposition and the Iyo Hulu continent where the king is defeated, the fundamental position contradiction cannot be reconciled. Both sides will either die or I will die. The reason why Tsang Shinrong chose EP1-10 fighting field. Unexpected safety protection. Tsang Jianmu is the key target of her suspicion. Tsang Shinrong mysteriously disappeared at the age of 15. She is 33 years old this year, only 3 years older than Maimo Fengyu. The 2 people in their 30s were in their prime at a young age. After all, their lifespan is now 300 years. Being a spirit practitioner in a battlefield is not easy to become. To become a spirit practitioner in a battlefield and obtain the qualification to practice openly and honestly, one must meet at least one of the following two conditions. 30 wealthy families or 3 wealthy families endorse it. 30,000 gold coins. Tsang Xinrong's choice is naturally 30,000 gold coins. The two of them delivered 30,000 gold coins and immediately became the working spirits of Fa Guang fighting field. As expected, they were warmly received by the steward with a surprised expression. A tea room with 7 people inside, 3 sitting and 4 standing. De Guanshi's surname is Xiao. Manager Xiao smiled and said, "Young master, how do you feel about your spiritual competition strength?" Maimo Fengyu said, "Do you think the boss wants to open a back door for me? Those who have lost 3 consecutive games in the workplace will be stripped of their job qualifications and need to re-enter the workforce." Manager Xiao nodded and smiled. "Tonight, can the young master take action?" Maimo Feng remained silent and nodded. Steward Xiao breathed a sigh of relief in his heart, and his smile widened. He said, "These days, due to the competition of Go Yin Yun, our group has suffered serious damage. If the young master can maintain a draw, your 30,000 gold coins will be immediately returned in their original state." Upon hearing the competition, Maimo Feng understood and said, "Deal." Chongjing is the abbreviation for hedging spirit competition. Both the orthodox competitive arena and the wild road arena cannot prevent gambling competition caused by competition. Due to the fact that spiritual competition is the practice of spiritual beings, coupled with the charm of football matches, the audience of spiritual competition in the Iyo Hulu continent can be described as one without exception, and this is a natural and bright way to harvest faith. The harvest of spiritual competition audiences, faith, in the countries of the Iyo Hulu continent is reflected in 2 aspects: harvest of love. Money harvesting. Harvesting of love. Generate joy in the competition hall or arena, accumulate joy, and develop into a believer. Money harvest. Divide the funds earned from gambling and competition by 82%. The most iron manifestation of the 4 major irons of life in the Iyo Hulu continent is sharing the spoils together. Under the dual baptism of spirit and material, a warm and lively fire can also become an accomplice to a fire. As a member of the Tsang family in Huzhail, Tsang Jianmu did not value the loss of small money, but rather the tarnishing of his reputation. This tarnishing of his reputation is a scale reversal that he cannot tolerate. Manager Xiao smiled and said, "I have prepared a great banquet. Congratulations to the young master in advance for his victory." Maimo Feng waved his hand and smiled, saying, "I'm not busy with this. It's a big deal. Can I make a request?" "You said." Manager Xiao is kind and amiable, with a hint of coldness. Maimo Feng said, "If I can defeat Go Yin Yun, can I exchange the reward for meeting with the big boss?" Manager Xiao was taken aback for a moment and asked, "Are you confident?" Maimo Feng said, "If all the promises can be exchanged successfully, it's not necessary to make a promise for $1,000. What I'm saying is if." Manager Xiao was stunned again and said, "Don't you know how many gold coins will be rewarded for defeating Go Yin Yun?" 1 million, said Maimo Feng. "Then you." Manager Xiao was very puzzled. Maimo Feng endured his temper and said, "I don't like money. I like standing on the distant mountain top and watching the scenery." Steward Xiao chuckled twice, and the yin-yang monster said, "Young master, what a great ambition. I admire it, I really admire it." Yihongshuan. Tsang Jianmu, as the pillar of the future of the Tsang family's Yak Academy, feels immense pressure every day. The milling clan is also divided into factions and presented in the form of courtyards. The factions within the milling clan are not products that can be sustained by eating their fill. The purpose of the appearance of the courtyard is to stimulate competition and maintain the vitality within the family. The support for the vitality of the factions through the Shuyuan website www.zhaoshuyuan.com is that personal servers can be upgraded or lowered. For example, 1 suit can be downgraded to 2 suits due to major demerits, and 5 suits can be upgraded to 4 suits due to major achievements. Not everyone has the power to use their own characters, as a wealthy male character may become the name of a large courtyard. Tsang Jianmu is a wealthy son with characters. He has the surname Tsang, the name Jianmu, and the character Majie. A wealthy and noble character cannot be easily addressed, as it is only suitable for those who are close to them to address it. This relationship begins as a superior-subordinate relationship and eventually becomes a superior-subordinate relationship, resulting in the distortion of characters. As a court name, it is honorable, while as a nickname, it is shameful. Tsang Jianmu has a hobby, which belongs to the normal preferences of the milling tribe and common people on the Iyo Hulu continent. He enjoys dancing. When he likes this kind of dance, clothes are initially present but very revealing, and then as the dance progresses, the clothes begin to disappear. There are even slaves in the land of Iyo Hulu, so prostitutes and other things can naturally be legally operated. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. Tsang Jianmu's face instantly became very ugly. The 8 dancers were instantly frightened and lay on the ground, trembling like poor quails in the snow of winter. Tsang Jianmu waved his hand. The 8 dancers evacuated at lightning speed, and all the food lovers who fell to the ground were naturally taken away. Tsang Jianmu said in a deep voice, "Come in." The door opened, but no one standing walked in. Instead, a humanoid creature, lying on the ground and using its limbs again, crawled in. The person's movements were swift and very skilled, clearly an old hand and a master among the old hands. This person is Manager Xiao. Steward Xiao quickly moved over to Tsang Jianmu, put his head down, and waited for his master, Banana, to come. His expectations did not disappoint. Chapter 7. Smashing the Door, Part 1. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ads by Google equals window. Ads by Google. Push. Tsang Jianmu's majestic voice rushed into the ears of Manager Xiao, saying, "What important thing is there that makes you so urgent?" "Master, we have a candidate to compete with Go Yinyun tonight." Manager Xiao trembled with excitement. "Oh," Tsang Jianmu said lightly, whose courage has suddenly become fat again. "No, this person is a newly hired spiritual worker. He is a mud-legged person who paid 30,000 gold coins out of his own pocket." Xiao, the steward, smiled. There are 2 ways to become a working spirit in the battlefield, which will not be elaborated here. Among them, using the big hat of becoming a spirit in the battlefield with a money button, and using the big hat of becoming a spirit in the battlefield with a mud leg button. Tsang Jianmu's tone was not good. Is this just a small matter? No. This mud-legged person is very extraordinary. He actually said that if he defeats Go Yinyun, he doesn't want 1 million gold coins, but chooses to meet his master. Although Xiao Dogwan's tone was trembling, his pronunciation was very clear. This is the result of experience and his ability to become a Dogwan. Tsang Jianmu became interested and said, "It's interesting, really interesting. Mud Legs is not a financial fanatic, it's interesting, really interesting. Prepare the private room for me." "Yes. Master." "Don't worry, Master. I will definitely handle it properly." The level of prosperity of a city can be seen through the number of squares. The main function of Iyo Hulu Continent Square is to watch spiritual competition. Although there is no television in the mainland of Iyo Hulu, it has items similar to television, which belong to high-end luxury goods. The manufacturers of these high-end luxury goods are spirit weapons, who use superpower materials to manufacture and create superpower items. The most representative of the identity of a spirit warrior is undoubtedly the spirit armor. The book Wuzi Tian Shu about the production of spiritual armor is still an unsolvable world mystery to this day. Whenever Lingjing starts, a device will appear on the city's main square for the public to watch Lingjing's live broadcast. The name of this device is only 2 words, and these two words are on the screen. On the mainland of Iyo Hulu, the screen is a device for watching live spiritual competitions. At less than 3 p.m., there were already many crowds on the squares of Yuanminjing. As the capital of the Yongsu Kingdom, Yuanminjing naturally has the highest ownership rate among idle people. The idle people in Iyo Hulu continent are not useless people, they are either born well or licked well. The ruling class of the entire Iyo Hulu continent revered a simple truth, which is that the pyramid power structure is the most stable power structure. The source of this superstition is that there was no enlightenment education in the land of Iyo Hulu, only fools brainwashed. The threat of the ruling class will not come from the resistance of people, but from the greed and malice of the same kind. In a certain square, 3 or 5 people are chatting. The food for chatting in the square is small wine and side dishes. The small wine here is low-alcohol wine, and the side dishes are very few meat dishes, mostly plain vegetarian dishes. Old Tay said, "Have you heard that we should have a powerful working spirit in our fight this time? I heard that the boss will come to the scene tonight to watch." "Really? Old Tay, you're not bragging again, are you?" Old Creek sneered. "Laoshi. What are you talking about? Don't falsely accuse me, you old boy." Old T's face turned red in an instant. "Hee hee." Lao Shi took a small sip of wine and said, "If it weren't for my trust in your cowhide, how could I have lost 3,000 gold coins? That's my 3 at your profit." Old Tay chuckled coldly and said, "Didn't I tell you in advance not to exceed 100 gold coins? Your Tamas won't listen. This can be blamed on me. A small gamble brings happiness, a big gamble harms the body. You don't even understand this." Lao Shi was angry and cursed loudly, "We're rough, your grandma." He took out the 4-edged stick from the space ring and started directly. Friendship boat can flip as soon as you say, dry rack mode. Activated. Another square. Lao Bien sighed and sighed. Lao Pao shouted loudly, "What's wrong? I've received my wife's reward again." "Not really." The old man sighed again and said, "My ladies are interested in an expensive new perfume. A bottle costs 100 gold coins. I really can't afford to support this old lady." Lao Pao chuckled and said, "They all say that fat and water don't flow into outsiders' fields. If you divorce a spendthrift, my younger brother will take care of you and will definitely take care of you with all his heart. Go to your master. Kid, I'm going to fight you." Old Bien was furious. Old Pao disdainfully said, "I can't stand your cheap and cowardly behavior. Being in good fortune doesn't know what good fortune is. You say, how did our goddess take a liking to this vegetable bun? How did you fall for it? The upper eyelids have neglected their duties, and the lower eyelids have collectively rebelled." Old Biao said. The old preacher said, "All right, don't be poor. Due to the downturn in our family's fighting field, the brothers are a bit tight on their hands. Therefore, our business alliance must be more united and we cannot let foreign dogs fish for our slaves and libas. The guardians of each family must do a good job in ideological work, and at this critical moment, there must be no chaos." Lao Gu said, "Don't worry, boss. There's no need to explain this small matter. Brothers, you have a clear heart." Lao Buhan said in a cold voice, "I haven't called the roll yet, but you jumped out on your own. Now is a critical moment, don't miss those few meals, let Nully eat 7% full." Old Bone retorted, "When they are full, they have strength, it's not even worse." He finally closed his mouth under Old Boo's stern gaze. The old sermon said, "All right, I won't say anything else. Nully is a cheap chopstick who remembers to eat or not to fight. It's not wrong to find a book garden www.zhaoshuyuan.com, but now is a critical moment for hostile business alliances to attack us. We must grasp the regulations and standards in the Basic Survival Manual to protect Nully and avoid major chaos. The productivity generated by steam technology in the continent of Iyo Hulu is not low due to the existence of coal crystals. However, due to the lack of dominant weapons as a driving force, steam technology has not embarked on the path of innovation, but rather has gone further and further on the path of growth. Due to the commercial ideology of Iyo Hulu on the mainland, which was to squeeze small profits out of large profits, steam machines became larger and more manpower was used, which directly led to the protection of slavery by various countries. After all, without people, there would be nothing left. Slaves or commoners, in the eyes of the milling tribe, are just a small matter. The humanistic ideology within the milling tribe adheres to the idea that tool people can be replaced, but it is a replacement of the same kind between higher and lower levels, without any willing or reluctant concerns. They only consider the stability of their rule, and therefore need to fix the interests of various social classes with the name of righteousness, thus forming a situation where, the teacher is famous, the righteousness is oriented, and naturally there will be no disadvantages. Of course, the right to explain how to play hooliganism openly naturally belongs entirely to the milling clan. So, the milling people are cutting corners and explaining righteousness, just to Fa Guang Bo Chang has 8 stadiums under its umbrella. The stadium is divided into lower level, intermediate level, and advanced level according to the number of spectators it can accommodate. Low-level courts. 30,000 to 50,000 yuan. Intermediate stadium. 80,000.150000 yuan. Premium stadium. 300,000 to 800,000 yuan. The spiritual arena of low-level spirits is naturally a low-level stadium. Due to the significant impact caused by the fate of Go Yin Yun, there is a lot of traffic. Therefore, the spiritual arena of this time is the Huhu Stadium, which can accommodate 485,000 spectators. Chapter 8. Smashing the Door, Middle. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Ads by Google equals window. Ads by Google. Push, Huhu Stadium, home quiet room, there are only 2 people inside, 1 male and 1 female. The 2 sat quietly without any communication. In fact, Tsang Xinrong hates this feeling, but who makes the little rascal like it? She can only be forced to change herself. Nowadays, she no longer rejects silence, but if she likes it. It's really hard to say. Maimo Fengyu likes silent environments and enjoys the embrace of silence. At this time, he feels his soul is very peaceful, carefree, and has found himself. Suddenly, a sweet female voice burst into Maimo Fengyu's ear and said, "The spiritual competition is about to begin. Please prepare yourself and head to the spiritual competition area." Maimo Fengyu opened his eyes and stood up. Tsang Xinrong approached Maimo Fengyu and smiled, "I plan to use penalty kicks to win this time. That's nature. Even if you win, you won't get a good reputation. What are you looking for?" "I want to be happy." Maimo Fengyu should have taken it for granted. How childish. Tsang Xinrong smiled helplessly. "Let's go." Maimo Fengyu walked towards the first teleportation array. The destination of the number 1 teleportation array is Lingjing District, Dianjiang Platform. Belonging to Tsang Xinrong is the second teleportation array, whose destination is a specific private room. Tsang Xinrong watched as Maimo Fengyu's figure slowly disappeared and let out a heavy sigh. She has an absolute preference for Maimo Fengyu, although she is speechless, she understands better. Nowadays, she can still control Maimo Fengyu's mind planning, but the future is uncertain. What can she do, what else can she do, besides taking a step by step to see what else she can do? Why are Maimo Fengyu and Tsang Xinrong so hastily completing the startup fund pool? Because this is a two-way journey, each seeking their own needs. One is the broad-mindedness of a big woman and the heart of a little daughter, one is that spiritual warfare is boring and spiritual competition is obsessed. The spiritual competition area inside the stadium is divided into 3 areas, from the outside to the inside, namely Ju Ming Huan, Dian Jiang Tai, and Ming Jing Fang. On the two podiums of the Huhu Stadium, two people suddenly appeared, one standing with Maimo Fengyu and the other with Go Yinyun. Go Yinyun has a handsome appearance. This is the primary condition for him to be favored by the benefactor. During a spiritual competition, there must be etiquette between the two sides. This etiquette is very simple, as both sides clasp fists and salute each other. After the ceremony is completed, both sides work together to construct a big announcement. The big announcement consists of a huge kuei drum and a pair of yin-yang drumsticks. The process of the big announcement. First, there is 81 rounds of spiritual stirring, and after the stirring is completed, the final conclusion is spiritual competition climbing, the winner soaring in the air. The big announcement ends and the construction of the football field begins. The construction of the football field was completed in an instant, appearing 81 meters above the ground and then slowly landing. After the appearance of the football field, the highlight came, and the spirit began to give orders. 108 player cards appeared behind Maimo Fengyu and Go Yinyun in an instant. As they are low-level spirits, their ball will be version 1.0. The 1.0 version of Qiujiang is 100 singles and 8 generals from Liangshan. The rule of the general is that the spirit is the first to fight at home. What is a home game spirit? Spiritual beings who passively accept challenges can be clearly distinguished by the great announcement. The team formed by the spirit is a 20-man roster, consisting of 11 starting players, 9 substitutes, 5 substitutions, and 3 substitutions. The selection of the list of 20 people is Subject 3, Subject 5, Subject 3, Subject 5, Subject 7, Subject 5, Subject 5, Subject 5, Subject 5, and Subject 2. The penalty kick is successful, and the ball behind the spirit player will be stuck and fly over the football field. The ball will become stuck and stand in the air. Whether it is a facing spirit race on the field or a wild song spirit race in the wilderness, the spirit players in the battle will not switch positions, but the football field can rotate 180 degrees. The difference between Chaoxing Lingjing and Yetsu Lingjing is that Chaoxing Lingjing is a command on the command platform, Yetsu Lingjing is the conductor of Huaxin's rented wind and fire, while Chaoxing Lingjing has gained a lot of XINE, while Chu Lingjing has gained little Sini. Sini is the currency used to purchase temporary command rights for players, who do not belong to the spirit. The greater the fame and value of a football player, the greater the cost. The initial Sini of the spirit is 1 million points. A spectator watching the game will contribute 10 points of joy. The distribution rule of Sini is that the winner receives 70% and the loser receives 30%, if it's a draw, then 5 to 5 points. Maimo Fengyu began to take the lead in the first round of his starting lineups. His 3 selected players in the first round were Dwarf Tiger Wang Ying, Black Whirlwind Li Kuei, and Divine Arithmetic Jiang Jing. The 3 players were originally positioned as forwards, midfielders, and midfielders, but Wang Ying could play as an attacking midfielder, and Li Kuei could also play as a defender. The reason why the ball can be usurped is due to the existence of talismans, which leads to this phenomenon. Therefore, forwards, midfielders, and defenders can usurp their positions, while goalkeepers can only stick to their positions. Kofu can endow the ball player with a game style, thereby increasing or decreasing the ball player's position attributes and changing the ball player's position skills. The native attributes of a ball player are gray silence, yellow fan, and emerald prosperity. Kofu is silent and motionless in gray, active in yellow, and flourishing in green. The total score of 81 points for a goalkeeper will not change unless they can always be retained. The summoning time of the spirit is 6 minutes, and the formation time is also 6 minutes. The lineup of Maimo Fengyu is 4.1.3.2. Goalkeeper. 9-tailed turtle, Tao Zhongwang. Defenders. Langley by Tiao Zhangshan, Mo Yunjin Fang Openg, Yunli Jin Gang Song Wan, Huyen Swan Ni Deng Fei. Midfield. Divine Arithmetic Jiangjing. Tong Armape Ho Jian, Black Whirlwind Li Kuei, Smiling Tiger Zhu Fu. Vanguard. Winged Tiger Lei Heng, Dwarf Tiger Wang Ying. As soon as Wang Ying appeared in the Maimo Fengyu lineup, he was met with widespread boos from enemy fans. Originally, his own fans should have fought back, but due to Wang Ying's football style, which was truly detestable, he caused his fans to fall into a 3-second vacuum of thinking. Although his fans counterattacked 3 seconds later, the feeling of emptiness in their hearts caused their combat power to decrease by 30.4%, resulting in Maimo Fengyu enduring a huge sonic attack. Maimo Fengyu had experienced this situation for the first time. He was not panicked, but rather overjoyed. However, he did not show it. A face can be understood as cold or wooden. Why is Wang Ying so unpopular with fans? The reason is that Wang Ying's talent is called Little Madam, Don't Run, and this talent characteristic is a master of fake throwing, using fake as real. Of course, as a player with a dirty style, Wang Ying is not alone. The talent of Gao Taiwei and Gao Qiu in the 2.0 version of the ball player is also a master of diving, using fake as real. Gao Qiu's talent is called the 1,000-year loneliness of the ball king. Although both Wang Ying and Gao Qiu have a dirty style, there is a fundamental difference between the two. Wang Ying's fake throw is a hard find, Gao Qiu's fake throw is a hit, hard find is active, and hit is passive. Technically speaking, they are naturally the king of the game and have an advantage. After the formation, it is the final step of the game, entry. The leading trio entering the field are the main referee and 2 assistant referees, with 2 teams behind the 2 assistant referees. They entered the football field not from the ground, but slowly and step by step from the air. The referee, like the goalkeeper, is not human, but spiritual. The main referee is Ing Zhongkue, and the assistant referees are Ing Nyoto and Ing Mamian, respectively. When the spirit competes, the main referee is Ing Zhongkue, and the assistant referees are Ing Nyoto and Ing Mamian. The referee of Lingjing has a keen eye and is a steadfast executor of Lingjing's rules, meticulously executing them without any trace of moisture. They are selfless and firm as a rock. The entry is over, and the competition officially begins. Chapter 9. Smashing the Door, Part 2. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ads by Google equals window. Ads by Google. Push, Maimo Fengyu's strategy is very simple, which is to defend and counterattack. His defensive counterattack is the ultimate form of defensive counterattack. Apart from Lei Heng and Wang Ying, the rest of the players huddled in their own half to defend, grabbing the ball and handing it to Jiang Jing, who is the engine of the counterattack. Divine Arithmetic Master Jiang Jingtian. No difference. Features. Long transmission guidance, weak design. The ball will have innate characteristics, which highlight a contradiction of strengths and weaknesses, resulting in 2 directions of using talismans. Enhancement and filling. Enhance peak potential and fill gaps comprehensively. A spiritual person's thorough understanding of commanding a certain ball player can generate telepathy. What is teleportation? The so-dot called arm and finger, without distinguishing each other. Football matches are inevitably filled with trash talk. The ball player does not know how to say trash, but the spirit player can share their thoughts and let different personalities and voices of the ball spew out the trash words that the spirit player wants to express. Go Yin Yun is a representative of beautiful football, and ball control is the most prominent feature of beautiful football. The fancy attributes must meet the standards. This is a beautiful and ugly spiritual battle. The public's aesthetic may not necessarily be correct, but it must not be wrong, because against the public's aesthetic, clowns will inevitably fall for it. Of course, if you become the Joker Emperor, you will receive another treatment and the public's peace of mind and understanding, and the word temperament has emerged. A person who is ugly can also show their temperament. This is the truth. It's not that you have changed, but that some people have changed. They have changed from biting to licking, but their mouth is still alive. Box 001. The private rooms inside the stadium are divided into 3 and 2 digits. The 2 digits are specific private rooms prepared for the families of spiritual beings participating in spiritual competitions. There are 9 specific private rooms, namely Room 01, Room 02. Room 09, which can only be accessed through the Tranquility Room Transfer Array 2. Tsang Jianmu's face was very ugly. The steward Xiao, who was originally rewarded for sitting, landed on all fours and apologized to Jingbao. He hates Maimo Fengyu to death in his heart, he must kill Maimo Fengyu. Why is Tsang Jianmu angry? As a traditional wealthy son, he naturally loves face and enjoys a prestigious reputation. He has already set his heart on killing, and if Maimo Fengyu wins, he still has the qualification to live a good life by committing a crime. If Maimo Fengyu were to draw, death would be the ultimate outcome, and there would be no unexpected outcome. Suddenly, Tsang Jianmu's eyes lit up and he saw a scene of a natural expression of laughter through the small screen. Wang Ying did not fall unexpectedly in the penalty area, and the referee pointed to the penalty spot. Go Yin is not in chaos. He believes that through this test, he has already figured out Wang Ying's path, and Wang Ying will not have a chance to receive a penalty in the future. The penalty taker for the Maimo Fengyu team is Jiang Jing. Jiang Jing arrived at the penalty spot with a smiling face and looked at the enemy goalkeeper Jin Dajian. Jin Dajian's gaze remained calm, staring coldly at Jiang Jing. Jiang Jing waited for the whistle to sound and lightly shot, heading straight towards the middle. Jin Dajian easily caught it. Jin Dajian's puzzled gaze was the true feeling of Go Yin, but it only puzzled for a second. Go Yin sneered in his heart, "Kid, you're really confident, but you're just too sarcastic." He looked at Maimo Fengyu, who was pointing at the wooden ridge on the stage in the distance, and surprisingly had a 3-point liking. Maimo Fengyu received a barrage of boos. This barrage of boos caused his own fans to exert great force and directly defected. Maimo Fengyu's expression remained wooden. Of course, the ridicule and angry insults from the audience in front of the screen are not so elegant, and the harsh insults are rapidly spewing out. Box 001. Tsang Jianmu was so angry that he smashed his favorite purple teapot in his hand, and the fragments splattered onto the face of manager Xiao, instantly bleeding profusely and dripping. Tsang Jianmu couldn't help it anymore, his anger skyrocketed, and he cursed loudly, "Where did you get this big sobby from? This big sobby? Did I really feed my dog food for free? Do you think so?" "Yes." Manager Xiao spoke with sincerity and sincerity. "Self-awareness, don't blame me for being cruel and ruthless. I'll end this matter on my own. After handling it, I'll be locked up in the doghouse for 3 months. Thank you for your kindness. Thank you for your kindness. Thank you for your kindness." Xiao, the steward, kowtowed with a clang, not to mention risking his life, but also using 7% of his energy to take care of the baby. The dog house in confinement is literally the true meaning of a real dog house. Xiao Da's steward's aunt is highly skilled in serving men and is often summoned by Tsang Jianmu as a warm bed maid. The responsibility of a warm bed maid. The bed is cold and difficult to sleep, and she needs jade warmth. She sweats profusely but has no right to sleep together. Returning at midnight, one must taste the cold wind and rain. To become a spiritual alchemist of the Milling clan, the basic qualification is to be proficient in refining the dragon spirit and tiger fierce spirit pills in the health pills. This is the iron rule that both the new Milling clan and the old Milling clan follow in selecting spiritual alchemist talents. Room 01. Tsang Xinrong sighed and knew that Maimo Fengyu's playfulness had completely exploded, and the bitter days of pursuing Yin luck were inevitable. She used to not believe in innate talent, but the appearance of Maimo Fengyu made her believe that there is really genius in the world. Maimo Feng's identity as a hater of the human race made him reject the possibility of being assimilated by the ignorant. He broke the vicious cycle of wealth and inhumanity, because his revenge for killing his mother was those poor and lowly people, Maimo Feng himself. Those despicable people have black means and evil intentions. They are ruthless just because they want to make money. Due to the low cost of driving those lowly people, the probability of them transforming into beasts is extremely high. Sun Shinrong once heard a saying. People's inner selves are difficult to see clearly, so don't be deceived by external factors. Identity is what fools Sabi. Sun Shinrong knew that Maimo Feng wanted to kill his heart this time. Just 3 minutes later, Wang Ying was lying in the penalty area again. Shi Jin, who was treated as a prop by Wang Ying, was angry. He first planned to take action, and then, with the strong appeasement of Go Yin, he lost the qualification to apply for a ruby card. Go Yin's fortune began to change. Spiritual beings have the power to change their skills during spiritual competitions, directing football matches. Bianca. During Lingjing, you can change the player's game style by visiting Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com. The low-level spiritual beings have the power to undergo 7 transformations. At this point, Go Yin decided to use the first change of style. He changed Jin Daijian's competition style from a catapult to a sprint. The penalty taker this time was still Jiang Jing, who smiled and took the same penalty as last time. However, under the command of Go Yin, Jin Daijian acted recklessly and moved, resulting in a score of 1.0 for Maimo Feng and Go Yin. After conceding the ball, the dribbling team led by Go Yin launched a more aggressive attack. 5 minutes later, Wang Ying was lying in the penalty area again. Shi Jin's anger was destroyed by Go Yin for 7 points, and only got a topaz card. Go Yin's mood began to become chaotic, and he didn't want to concede another goal. He dared not wait, so he ordered Jin Daijian to move again, and the score became 2.0. 3 minutes later, Wang Ying continued to lie in the penalty area. Shi Jin couldn't help but punch Wang Ying with a left hook and rolled 3 times in the air. Finally, Shi Jin successfully claimed his ruby card. A ruby card prohibits the spirit from directing this ball for 3 to 12 games. 2 topaz cards can be exchanged for 1 ruby card in a football match. The suspension of the ball will be determined by the referee, Zhong Kue, based on the severity of the situation. Go Yin's Shi Jin was banned for 12 matches and received top-tier treatment. Go Yin's mentality was a bit shattered. At the end of the first half, the score. Maimo Feng scored 5.0 against Go Yin, which was a result of Go Yin's strong defense. During the 15 minutes of halftime, Go Yin, who was in the quiet ventricle, chose to give up his face and defend with all his might the final score. Maimo Feng 7.0 Go Yin. The first spiritual practice of Maimo Feng has come to a perfect end. Chapter 10. Door Replacement, Part 1. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ads by Google equals window. Ads by Google. Push, box 001. Tsang Jianmu felt extremely happy. Xiao De Steward. Xiao Ji is delirious and straight, with big white teeth shining brightly. Although Lingdan Shi is known as Lingdan Shi, they not only refine Lingdan, but also refine Lingye. The raw material for refining spiritual liquid is the residue left after refining spiritual pills. The function of Shengji revitalization pill is the same as that of blood and flesh original liquid, that is, to treat trauma. Difference. Dan has a fast and painless effect, the liquid effect is slow and painful. Although Xiaojai Delian was extremely painful, he really felt happy, so his perception of pain seemed to have weakened. Tsang Jianmu drank a large glass of red wine and said happily, "All right. All right. All right. Xiao Xiao has made a contribution. Your aunt should have become a wet nurse, but a warm bed maid is really talented. Now, I think. I'll just be promoted to a courtesan." Xiao Jiedelian was stunned for a moment, and tears burst down in an instant. He choked up and said, "Thank you for your great kindness. Your great kindness is hard to repay in this life, and in the next life. The common people on the continent of Hulu should have a higher status than slaves, but the treatment of common people is not necessarily higher than that of slaves. The treatment of slaves, talents, and maidservants, in the courtyard of the milling tribe is higher than that of common people, and some maidservants are even higher than the first class of common people. Why is this? Beat the dog and see the owner. As one of the servants, the status of a maid is slightly higher than that of a slave because she is more favored by her master and has more opportunities to receive rewards. So, among the common people, having a daughter is stronger than having a man. Although the whole society values sons over daughters, it cannot prevent the extreme desire of the common people to change their destiny. Maids are divided into maids, and huji. Jili maid is the highest level of maid. Huji is equivalent to half a master, although in the eyes of the master mothers, they are still despicable. Tsang Jianmu said, "All right, this is what you deserve. Your master, I can't even achieve clear rewards and punishments." The master's eyes are as bright as a flame, his wise eyes recognize pearls. "All right, there's no need to flatter. Prepare carefully for tonight's celebration banquet." Such a person. I need to think carefully. Tsang Jianmu instinctively touched his chin. Xiao Jiedeli's ambition is not small, he wants to break through the barriers of class. He changed from lying on all fours to kneeling and respectfully said, "Master, are you happy about this game?" "It's worth mentioning," Tsang Jianmu replied with a rare piece of nonsense, proving that his mood was very beautiful. Xiao Ji deliriously chuckled twice and started playing a riddle. Tsang Jianmu was very fond of this clever dog servant, otherwise it wouldn't have been just a simple glass shard breaking his appearance just now. He laughed and cursed, "You're such a genius. If you have any fart, let it go. Otherwise, you'll be beaten." Xiao Jiedelian took the initiative to offer his head melon seeds and flattered, saying, "Master, I have an idea. Don't be angry if you listen." Tsang Jianmu gently caressed Xiao Jiedelian's head and said, "Tell me, I'll give you a chance to speak without hesitation." Xiao Jiedelian was overjoyed and kowtowed, "Thank you, Lord." He lifted his head and continued to flatter, "Lord, my Maimo can still be considered a material that can be made, right?" Tsang Jianmu nodded. "The man doesn't like to use this kind of petty person, but can't we train my Maimo to be knowledgeable and rational, and give it to good friends who love it? Isn't this a great gift?" Tsang Jianmu's eyes suddenly lit up, and he patted his thigh, repeatedly saying, "Okay, okay." Tsang Jianmu said to himself, "This kid is a cultivable talent. The most important thing is that he has the vulgar kindness of the common people, very good, very good. If he can be trained, he can get rid of his rude behavior style and stay for his own use, which is also excellent." Tsang Jianmu deemed Maimo's release of water in the second half to be a lack of kindness. Being promiscuous is a personality that milling people love very much. The most straightforward expression of this personality is remembering to eat or not to hit, and a small kindness can bring great intelligence. The root cause of such kindness is that they are generous regardless of good or bad, because they don't know what is good and what is evil. They are just a bunch of stupid cars and dim sum. In fact, Maimo released water in the second half because he felt bored, not intolerable, but uninteresting and uninterested. Maimo has a lowly nature, which is that the stronger the enemy is, the stronger he becomes, the more the enemy resists, the more excited he becomes, the more shameless the enemy is, the more itchy his hands become. Maimo is very indifferent to bullying the weak, uninteresting, really uninteresting. So, he naturally developed a tendency to hoe the strong and support the weak that he didn't even know about. He tackles the strong and supports the weak not because of noble character, but because he can easily enjoy the thrill of fighting against the strong and supporting the weak. The post-competition press conference was a solo performance by Maimo Fengyu. Originally, there should have been someone to accompany, but due to the commanding style of Maimo Fengyu, which was not favored by the master, it was better for those people to do less than to do more, under the guiding principle of doing more, making fewer mistakes, and not doing well, choose to be one. The civilized saying is that the ostrich buries its head, and to put it bluntly, it is the shrinking turtle. Underneath the stage, the reporters looked at the wooden Maimo Fengyu, and their hot emotions were almost penetrating their bodies. They just liked this kind of chick, making it difficult for them. This would give them a superior and abnormal feeling, enjoying the pleasure of manipulating life and death. However, what made them extremely dissatisfied was that the host was already 3 minutes late. Without the host, who would call the roll? How can one obtain the right to ask questions without calling? Maimo Fengyu had originally planned to lift his butt and run away, but the excitement in the eyes of the reporters on stage made him more playful. He decided not to leave and had a good chat with them. He chose to wait quietly. Finally, Wei Yingying couldn't bear it anymore and rushed onto the stage to the position of the host. She smiled and said, "I'll make a guest appearance as the host. Everyone has no objections, right?" She had a sweet appearance and launched a sexual assault, naturally gaining the support of the vast majority of male colleagues. The first person named by Wei Yingying is her own colleague. The person stood up, took out the microphone from his habitual concealment, coughed lightly twice, and asked, "May I ask, do you feel at ease to steal this victory by such means?" "Okay." The colleagues cheered loudly. "That person is proud. If they have a tail, they will definitely be raised high as the flagpole." Maimo Fengyu chuckled and said, "I won." The person was stunned and asked, "I know you won, but my question is, do you feel at ease? Don't you feel ashamed? Don't you think you're not strong enough to win? Don't you think your petty behavior doesn't deserve victory?" Maimo Fengyu sincerely said, "I won." His heart was filled with joy. For the problems of idiots, it is important to remember not to view them as problems, because if you view the problems of idiots as problems, the ultimate winner must be idiots, because those who fall into the trap of idiots are brainless sabi. The essential difference between idiots and shabby is that idiots are not brainless, but rather their brains are taken away by external forces, but their cerebellum undergoes the baptism of feces and begins to expand, turning into a fecal shaking brain. The person became angry and shouted, "I know you won, but could you stop saying this?" Maimo Fengyu was puzzled and asked, "Why didn't I say that I won? If I didn't say that, could I ask the losers to promote me?" That person is speechless.